Howdy y'all, welcome back to another On the Mountain Ministries YouTube video. I'm going through and reading Proverbs chapter 14 today. Is August 14th, so it seems fitting. You know, a couple years ago when I was staffing at scout camp, I decided that since I was in the woods, I'd do my best to read at least one chapter of the Bible a day. That was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, but I was going through reading Proverbs and I noticed there's very few verses that aren't underlined. But sometimes those are the ones that stand out the most, right? As I go through my Bible, I can't show you guys because I'm not great at videography, but as I go through my Bible, I see different markings. I see pencils, I see pens, I see green pens, I see highlighters. There's different size pencils and pens and markers. So Proverbs is pretty marked up. But I'm going through reading chapter 14 today, verses 6 through 9. I'll read them to you guys. A scoffer seeks wisdom and does not find it, but knowledge is easy to him who understands. Go from the presence of a foolish man when you do not perceive in him the lips of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his ways, but the folly of fools is deceit. Verse 9, fools mock at sin, but among them there is favor. If you guys read Proverbs, at least on a semi-regular basis, you see there's always themes, and everything is repeated back and forth, right? And that's kind of because it normally takes it 2 to 3, 4 times before you start remembering it. I find it interesting, though, because in verse 6, a scoffer seeks wisdom and does not find it, right? So he's looking for it, but he's not trying for it. But knowledge is easy to him who understands. So if you're actually trying to learn something and you're trying to gain wisdom, it's slowly going to start coming into your head. Verse 7 goes on to, go from the presence of a foolish man when you do not perceive in him the lips of knowledge. Verse 8, the wisdom of the prudent is to understand his ways, but the folly of fools is deceit. I think this is important because a couple months ago at work, we had this saying as I was doing 75 hard. And the saying was, you can't fly with eagles if you're flying with seagulls. And there's a whole story to that. We seen it on a YouTube video and we thought that was pretty interesting. But the point being is, if you're always down here, it's going to be hard to get up here. I think that's what it's trying to say here in verse 7, which is, for interestingly enough, is not underlined, which is one of the 8 verses in this chapter that isn't for whatever reason. Go from the presence of a foolish man when you do not perceive in him the lips of knowledge, right? If they don't have anything to offer you, pray for them and maybe it's time to continue on. But if we go back to chapter 13, verse 20, this one is underlined. I read this yesterday and this one stuck out to me all day. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. And it goes back to what I was just saying ago. If you're trying to be up here, you should not be hanging out with people down here. For the most part, right? I mean, there's maybe some exceptions to that rule, but it's important. And I don't remember exactly where I heard it from. I think the quote that at least I heard from was Abraham Lincoln, and he probably pulled it from the Bible somewhere, but the idea being, it's better for people to think you're a fool than to open your mouth and prove them right. But you're going to be a fool if you're walking with fools. It's the idea of you become what you're around. So if you're always trying to gain wisdom and learn, you should be hanging out with people that are wise. I think that's something pretty important here, but we'll go back to chapter 14 real fast, and it goes down to verse 19. Fools mock at sin, but among them there is favor. Fools mock at sin, but among the upright there is favor. If we go down, sorry I lost the verse, but later in this chapter it talks about, a foolish man commits sin. Right, and if you don't know what sin is, you should probably go in and start looking into what that means. But it's interesting how it says, fools mock at sin. But right above it, it says, the presence of a foolish man, when you don't perceive his lips of knowledge. I think that's something to keep in mind, guys. Now, this is just a rambling video. It probably doesn't make any sense to anybody other than myself. Point being, if you want to be at the top, you have to be around people that are trying to be there and are trying to learn. And people that are mocking at sinful things, you might want to be careful. Just remember, good company corrupts good habits. Have a blessed day, y'all.